What is up, you guys? So in today's video, we're going to talk about how to get started with powerlifting. Now, I know powerlifting can be intimidating on social media. You see a lot of videos of people's veins popping out of their foreheads, their eyes bloodshot red. And you're just like, I thought I wanted to do that, but I don't look like that and I don't do that. So the idea of powerlifting can be really cool, really fun, really empowering, but you might not know how to get started. So this video is going to be about how you can get started with powerlifting, and it's not as intimidating as it might seem on social media, so don't worry. So let's do it. My first step that I'm going to give you guys is to start a hypertrophy phase. Now, a hypertrophy phase can be anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks. If you go longer, I personally believe that it's better. I trained for hypertrophy, for bodybuilding for 3 or 4 years before I got involved with powerlifting, so I had a really strong base. And if you do at least an 8 to 12 week phase of hypertrophy, you're gonna build yourself a really nice base of some muscle. Strength comes from this base of muscle. Now, you don't have to have a lot of muscle to be strong, but it is better and it will benefit you more. What a hypertrophy phase looks like, it's similar to bodybuilding training. So if you've seen any bodybuilders on Instagram, which I'm sure you have, they were doing more of a hypertrophy phase of training because their goal was to have lean muscle, which really means just being at a lean body fat percentage, but also keeping as much muscle as possible by doing, you know, their curls, their lat pull downs, doing their leg presses and all that shit. Which in powerlifting we still do, but the focus in powerlifting is actually to have the biggest total that you can get through squat, bench, and deadlift. So we do accessory work, which is what we call the hypertrophy, more hypertrophy based workouts. We call that accessory work, and we call our main movements our compound movements, which is squat, bench, and deadlift. So I'm kind of getting off track here. So back to the hypertrophy phase. You're going to train in this hypertrophy phase for a while. Hypertrophy is usually working with sets of 3 to 4 and reps of anywhere from 8 to 12. There's sometimes even 15s, which is getting more into the muscular endurance phase. Now, the exercises that you're going to be doing are going to be more isolation exercises versus compound movements. Isolation exercises, again, are going to be like our curls. It's isolating just our biceps. Now, a compound movement would be a squat, which a lot of people think is just a glute exercise. It is absolutely not just a glute exercises. It's absolutely not just a glute exercise. A multi-joint exercise is what it's called. So you're working multiple muscle groups when you're doing these. So an example of how your training program could look would be training 6 times per week, and you do a push-pull leg split. That's just a general idea of what you can do. It's not what you have to do. It is usually what I do, unless I have to change my schedule, but that's what I suggest doing. Hello, we have an appearance from my little pug. Say hi, baby girl. This is Itzy. So I know you guys are eager to move on to the next step, and that is hiring a coach. Now, this isn't something that everyone can afford to do. Some people want to do this just to take on, you know, a new sport, just to try it out. But if you're someone who's serious about competing in powerlifting, then I would absolutely hire a coach. The reason for this is you are completely new to this sport. You don't know proper movements, you don't know technique, you don't know calls, you don't know really, and you don't even probably know how to load the barbell, which is different than in a regular gym. They help you fix a lot of problems that you're probably gonna have because we all have them in your main movements. So hiring a coach is very essential, but I would hire your coach to take you through a 12-week phase that leads up to a mock meet. And that's going to be very similar to an actual powerlifting meet, outside of having to pay for competing and outside of having all of the people watching you. So it would be just like a powerlifting meet. And I think this is a really good start to do a mock meet rather than a full meet, just so you can get the feel of what it's like to compete. What the frick are you doing? But you get the feel of what it's like to compete, and you get a starting point. And I know I mentioned already that learning the sport is very important and that your coach will take you through that. But again, if you're not going to hire a coach for this whole mock meet phase, or this whole initial phase of your 12-week training, then it's going to be really important that you take it upon yourself to learn about the sport. So there's a lot that's involved with that. So again, that's just technique, commands, the rules of the sport, all of that, even which federation that you want to compete in. Your coach will help you with this generally, but if you're not going to hire a coach, then these are things that you do need to learn about yourself, because when you do go to that mock meet, when you have your first mock meet, well, you need to know how to implement the rules. You need to know whether your lifts count. You need to make sure that you squat past depth. Like, all of those things are very important. Your coach will help you, but if you don't have a coach, then these are things you still need to be aware of. So the next step is your powerlifting meet, training for your actual powerlifting meet. We're done with the mock meet. You have a starting point. Now it's time to get in it to win it. Generally, fitness coaches and your strength coaches, your powerlifting coaches will warn you that you shouldn't make goals to win. You should just make your goals very simple, nothing too like crazy. Like, you're not going in there to set records for your first meet. Generally, you're going in there to kind of still get your feet wet a little bit with meet. You're still getting the feel of everything, so you're not going to be trying to win quite yet. You might want it in your head, and that's fine. You can even set big goals if you want to. Personally, I did with my first meet. I set big goals and I ended up taking home first place. I didn't plan on winning, actually. I had no idea. I thought I lost. I literally thought I got dead last. I personally, if it motivates you to set big goals, then I personally don't see anything wrong with it. Just most coaches suggest not to. I love it because it keeps me it pushes me forward. It motivates me. It gives me a reason to go in there every day because I like that challenge. That is what drives me, is knowing that I have these goals. I might not make it, but I'm gonna work as if I'm gonna make it, and that is my mindset on life and everything I do. So personally, I do like when you set big goals, but don't expect big goals to be achieved immediately, because this is your first time competing, and chances are you're competing against people who have competed much longer than you have. This is more than likely not their first time, and that's no reason to not compete. Like, that should drive you even harder because you're competing with people who have competed already. Like, I was the only first timer in the meet that I competed at, and I took home first place. So it's not that it can't happen, but just don't have your expectations too high. Work hard, have goals, but don't expect to win. Sit down and be humble, bitches. So generally the goal is to not overshoot anything in your first meet. You want to go 9 for 9. You don't want to miss your lifts. You want to just go in there, get your numbers, get a solid total, and that should be your main goal. They also say don't cut for your first meet, which I actually agree with. Don't cut. Because again, you're not going into this competitively. You're not going in this to be competitive. Now, you might be competitive, like that is probably why you're competing, but you're not going to be at a competitive level yet. So there's no reason for you to cut. Your general program is going to start 12 to 14 weeks out from your meet. And that's when you're gonna work again with your coach. Your program is going to be based off of either percentages or RPE. Normally what you'll see is coaches work with both. So that's something that you'll get familiar with in your program. RPE is based off of, it's called rate of perceived exertion. So basically what that means is you're judging how your lifts are going. So you're like, oh, this feels like a 9 out of 10, which means you feel like you could have gotten one more rep in. So that is a whole other video, but there's like different things. Percentages are based off of your 1 rep max, which you now know your percentages, you now know your numbers. And that's really it. Like, becoming a power lifter is really nothing special. As people like to pretend that their sports are really special. They're great. Like, sports can do a lot for people, but it's not intimidating to get into powerlifting. And once you do your first meet, you can put powerlifter in your Instagram bio and be done with it. I'm just kidding. No, but social media really does has done a really good job of encouraging powerlifting now. It's become more of a trend to get into powerlifting, which I don't see as a bad thing. I think it's just become more popular because people are seeing what else is out there as far as sports go. And this is a sport that isn't about aesthetics as much as about appearance as much as bodybuilding, for example. And it's about performance, and it's about being empowering and getting in there and being a badass. And that is why I love powerlifting. So if you guys are trying to become powerlifters, get out there, start with the first step, get into your hypertrophy phase, and just move forward. If you guys are interested in a coach, well, hello, my name is Lexis. I'm only doing coaching for a certain amount of people, so shoot me a DM on Instagram or link in the bio to find out if I'm offering coaching right now. But if not, you guys, there are tons of other very knowledgeable coaches out there. Love you guys. Thanks so much for watching. I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye!